Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled today to welcome Dr. Katherine Booher, who is the Director for Workforce Partnerships at Accelerate Montana. Katherine is a workforce development and post-secondary education scholar practitioner who is passionate around connecting Montanans to meaningful careers. She collaborates with industry, higher education, community partners to design and deliver responsive skill-based training opportunities. The context for this is really across sectors. Photonics tech requires skilled workers in a variety of roles. We want to make sure that there are multiple strong pathways to train for these well-paying jobs. Toward that goal, Accelerate Montana has worked with NPQA to develop the Electro-Optics Assembly Technician training program. AMT is now, and Katherine primarily at AMT is now working to extend the reach of that program and really provide more opportunities for folks across the state. And so I am really excited to hear Katherine talk about her work today.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to take a second here to get my slides up and then we will get going. This is always the real test using the technology.
While you're doing that, Katherine, I just want to say that Katherine is newly Dr. Booher. She graduated earlier this year, or this month. So if you would
Thank
like,
you, Jenny.
you're welcome.
No one has let me miss a celebration. Alrighty. All right, how's that looking, folks? Cool.
Looks perfect.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So first off, thank you so much for having me here today. Like Tim mentioned, my name is Katherine, and I'm the Director of Workforce Partnerships at Accelerate Montana. I'm excited to talk a bit about our Electro-Optics Technician training program. I'll probably use the shorthand of EOTech since that rolls off the tongue a little bit easier as I speak about the program. And this is a program that I'm going to say we've piloted it kind of in two distinct ways over the past few years, and we're now working with partners to figure out how we can continue to fund, iterate, and improve upon the offering into the future. So a quick snapshot of how I'm going to spend our time today. I'll take a moment to introduce you to Accelerate Montana, but I see a ton of familiar faces in the room, so that shouldn't take too long. I'll give you an overview of the EOTech program, including its history over the past few years and evolution. I'm going to dive into our two sort of distinct pilot programs that we've run, both in Bozeman, kind of public facing with community members, and in Belgrade High School. We are excited to be engaging in an opportunity with the Catalyze Challenge that focuses on this work, so I'll tell you a bit about that, and then we'll look into the future of this program, and it's kind of an invitation for you all to have a conversation about this ecosystem and engaging conversation about this work and how you see it into the future. All right, so to start who we are, I won't spend too much time here. For those of you not familiar with Accelerate Montana, we're a statewide nonprofit organization with a really close relationship with the University of Montana, and our mission is to support inclusive economic prosperity for Montana's workers, companies, and communities. Like Tim mentioned, I'm the Director of Workforce Partnerships, and in my role, I have the privilege of working with so many of you here and stakeholders across the state, two-year colleges, tribal colleges, employers, industry associations, high schools, the list sort of goes on. Anyone who wants to work with us to support the design and delivery of high-quality skills-based training programs. I'm really focused on preparing individuals with the skills that they need to succeed in a variety of sectors across Montana. One of these programs is the Electro-Optics training program, and several of us at AMT have worked on this, and partners in the room have worked on this for a long time, so I want to make sure that I kind of note that too. This programming is the culmination of years of work with multiple Accelerate team members and multiple employer partners and industry association partners across Montana, so it really is a collective effort and collective success as we move forward. So just to dive into sort of a super high level and overview of what this program is, and this is not my area of expertise. I've worked in higher education in nonprofit spaces for my whole career, but I'm not an expert in photonics. So I can't answer your technical questions, but I will give you an overview of the program and some of the experts who have helped inform it, which has been really important. So the Electro-Optics Assembly Technician credential is what students earn as a result of this. And this is a real industry-backed credential. It's issued by Accelerate Montana through Parchment, our digital badging platform, but it's not a certificate of participation. It signals to employers that earners have met rigorous standardized benchmarks that we've co-designed with MPQA. It's earned through a few different models, but in large part, learners participate in 10 hours of in-person instruction and mentorship with an active industry professional, and tons of this work is hands-on, and they get the opportunity to also visit some of these facilities in Gallatin County and see how this work happens in real life. Students sort of prove their skills by building something real. They build a remote-controlled rover, and I have one here to show you. This is a student-built rover from our Belgrade cohort that I keep in my office. And they apply those same core competencies expected of sort of like an entry-level electronics assembly professional, the same skills you'd use in a professional environment. These skills are directly tied to what employers need, since this curriculum was employer sort of co-designed, co-led. And these include topics like workplace and material safety, soldering and component repair, how to use professional lab equipment, things like multimeters, quality management and structured troubleshooting towards the tail end of training, and foundational photonics knowledge. Learn about lasers, LiDAR, quantum systems, optics, with Montana-specific examples, importantly. And so employers can trust this credential. MPQA has endorsed it. They participated in the design of this training. And the credentialing can tell hiring managers, future sort of institutions of higher learning, that students have some experience, some skin in the game. They've invested in some of this learning, and they're ready to start contributing day one, whether that's in future learning or in an employment opportunity. So here's a little timeline of the training program. As I mentioned, we've run this program 2 times now. And like I mentioned sort of before, I would describe these as 2 really distinct pilots that served different audiences. But as is the case when we iterate on training programs, the first has informed the second and will inform our future work too. And I can talk about why we've made some of the pivots that we've made. That first pilot took place in the fall of 24 during the rapid training program and was all adult facing. I'll dive into that more in a second. The second pilot was a bit different, same content, but took place in fall 25, and that was serving a high school audience at Belgrade High School embedded within the classroom. And then as we look into the future, we see an opportunity, in particular in that high school setting with juniors and seniors, to iterate on the curriculum and the supports needed to sort of operate a train-the-trainer model that I'll talk a bit more about towards the end of this presentation. So first, I'll give you a quick overview and some history on that first Bozeman community training. And so the EOTech program was industry informed from the very beginning. The original curriculum was designed in partnership with MPQA, meant to mirror what new hires are taught when they begin an entry-level EOTech role. Huge shout out to Jason and his team and their colleagues that they recruited to work on this, because having industry involved in the design of this training made sure that we were addressing sort of real-world, very local Montana needs in this industry. This training was instructed and also co-designed by Phil Diestel. He's pictured here with one of our cool rovers. He brought this experience, his experience rather, as a current industry professional to the training and delivered this program over 7 weeks in person with some portions on Zoom. Anyone who works in workforce or adult education knows that learners are navigating these opportunities while also battling, life's responsibilities. And so it can be really challenging to recruit learners for opportunities. And we had one very brave learner register for this pilot. With Phil's instruction, she completed the training, built the rover, and learned all the skills that I kind of talked about previously. That one successful learner earned that digital badge that articulates the skills that can be used that she can then communicate to employers as her foundational knowledge. And to our understanding, she is employed in the industry and had a lot of interest from local employers to hire her. So certainly some lessons learned there about what it means to recruit trainees, how you can make training accessible for adult learners. But writ large, the curriculum landed well, was well received by employers, and we got kind of good feedback from the student too. And so from there, we thought about how we could do this again and how it might look differently. And it was really sort of serendipitous. The right partners came together at the right time to try this differently. And so after that initial community-facing pilot, we shifted our gears a bit. We got connected with Amy from Belgrade High School, who was at the time for the school district coordinating many of their CTE offerings. I do believe she's moved on to another opportunity now, but given Belgrade's proximity to all of the exciting things happening in Bozeman in this industry, it made a ton of sense to see how their juniors and seniors could gain these practical skills that were already defined by industry. We had already done a lot of the work to develop that curriculum and see how they could sort of maximize the opportunity that was growing right in their own backyard. And so we sort of entered this other phase over the summer of kind of iterative co-design with the high school and with Phil, our brave instructor again, who instructed that first pilot. And we decided to figure out what a condensed, I would say like almost boot camp style embedded course structure would look like for high school students. The high school was super helpful in helping us identify a course that would translate well into this training and also allow us to sort of take over their classroom for 2 weeks to have an experiment. And so we did end up working with an advanced welding course that was already at the high school and their teacher, Coach K. And over 2 weeks, Phil came to the classroom every single day, which was a huge sacrifice and investment for someone who works full-time in the industry. And he taught essentially the same course as before, just reformatted in a way that would address the constraints that you might see in a high school setting, things like the scheduling, needing to maintain that school schedule, and being in the classroom in person quite a bit during school hours. At the same time, Coach K, the welding instructor, got to see what it would look like to incorporate some of the same content into his classroom into the future, as the goal was in this program, and I think still is in many ways, to figure out how we can take all of the good stuff Phil has been able to bring to this program, but scale it in a way that doesn't require us to find kind of the unicorn that was Phil in every community we want to offer this in, because it's just not going to be possible as an ask. So we need to figure out how we can empower educators like Coach K to sort of support us in that endeavor. So the students, they built their rovers in pairs. The one that I have is a Belgrade student rover, and it turned out to be a really awesome fit for the welding classroom. So many of the skills that would make someone a really good EO tech are also skills that the welding students were learning in their classroom, so that just meshed really nicely. And of course, I want to shout out the Headwaters Tech Hub, who sponsored this opportunity, helped defray some of the costs associated with delivering the training. So that was a success all around. I've got a couple of photos I can share with you too. Here are some photos from the classroom. You can see the rovers that students built. Jenny and I had the opportunity to go and visit the last day and talk to students. Jay Wilkins visited as well. The students got to sort of troubleshoot their rovers, drive them around. It was pretty cool just to see how engaged they were in their learning. And by the end, there was a number of learners who had never considered this as a career path for them, and learned about this thing that's happening really, really close to home, that they have the skills already to start engaging with. So that was really exciting. I wanted to show you too, I have some snippets of the feedback that learners gave us in the surveys, and it was overwhelmingly positive. Students rated the training a 4.14 out of 5 on average. We feel pretty good about that. And the most common feedback we got was that they want more hands-on activities. Love that. We want to be able to offer that too. They want the opportunity to engage with industry, perhaps visiting local facilities. That had been a part of our original vision, and all the constraints that come into delivering something in a high school during busy sports season made that hard, but that's something that's a top priority for us moving forward. And they wish that training had been longer. So for us, those are great asks. Those are things that we can definitely work on into the future. We really want to see an opportunity to keep exploring ways to deliver this training in a high school setting, particularly when learners will be graduating soon and considering their employment or additional education and training pathways. So this is focused, they're learning real world workplace skills. But there's also an element of career exploration too. I would characterize this as sort of a hybrid between that like skills, hard skills training, as well as the exploration piece. But but having an opportunity in the future to educate them too on how you could take this into industry or how you could access institutions across Montana that are diving into this work so much deeper is going to be a key priority moving forward. So this brings us to, with this in mind, and we were excited about the success of the Belgrade opportunity. I should have mentioned the number of students at Belgrade. It was, I believe, it was 18 learners who participated. But with this in mind, we applied for an opportunity called the Catalyze Challenge, and this is a grant program that invests in early stage career connected learning ideas, and the awards happen in two stages. First, through a technical assistance period that comes with a small, a $10,000 award. And then folks who are selected for that period can then apply for a much larger award, much larger award of up to 300,000. And so we applied with this programming in mind and sort of our vision for creating something that is a little more scalable and supportive of the post-secondary educator in mind. For the meaningful work-based learning track through employer partnerships, and we were selected. And so we are currently in the technical assistance and incubation period, and we have the opportunity to apply for the larger award, and that application will be due in early July. So I was telling Courtney, this is sort of perfect timing for this conversation. As I get close to wrapping up here, I would sort of have a call to action to all of you in how you can inform how this work is shaped moving forward, as engaging with diverse education, post-secondary education partners and employers is going to be key to making this work a success moving forward and making sure we're actually responding to the needs that people see in the field. And so we're using this opportunity to keep refining our learnings from that second pilot and address some of the ways that the training could be more scalable in settings. As I mentioned before, and I can't say it enough, having Phil in the classroom was so amazing for the students. It's not possible to keep doing that way forever. And so we're thinking how we can provide educators with the resources they need to be partners in delivering curriculum, but also making sure that we are bringing industry into the classroom and that students have the opportunity to go to job sites and hear from industry professionals firsthand. And so that's top of mind as we design here. I've covered a lot of these, but there's no doubt challenges and opportunities as we look forward to tackling future iterations of the training. I think first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're responding to the feedback that we got from students, finding ways to incorporate more hands-on learning, more real world applications and engagement with local employers, while still considering the constraints of a high school setting. It's kind of a fun puzzle to work on. Another thing that's top of mind is, of course, balancing how, the embedded welding classroom, that worked really well for a lot of reasons. Students leveraged their existing skill sets. Students that might not have seen themselves as sort of like STEM learners were able to see themselves through a different lens. But the classroom was all young men, and I think that's going to be the case for a lot of trades classrooms across the state. So we just need to think creatively about how we can make sure that more folks are able to consider this training or career pathway and just be thoughtful in how we're selecting those venues. Not to say the welding classroom isn't a great venue to keep considering moving forward. Recently we've had conversations with colleagues in the Flathead that have illuminated that there are opportunities to maybe even lean into the electronics portion of the training a bit more, maybe offer something similar with local schools and employers that reflects those industry needs there. So those conversations are ongoing with the Catalyze opportunity in mind. And then, of course, want to make sure that students know that in addition to seeking employment, that they can dig even deeper, way deeper into these opportunities in education with programs like what Gallatin College has, what MSU has, what others are building. And so I've sort of laid out the next steps as I see them from my perspective here, but I'm not the only voice who counts in this conversation. And so I would really like to open up for questions, for conversation, Jenny, for anything that I'm missing here too. The other sort of where we go from here thing that I want to flag is I want to call attention to this sort of perennial workforce development issue of sustainability too. And so this Catalyze opportunity is a really great chance for us to perhaps invest on the front end costs of developing this pipeline, but continuing to seek investment and not just monetary in these efforts, and making sure we're reflecting the need that is seen in the field is something that's top of mind for me as we navigate the opportunity too. So I'll probably just stop there. This is my contact information if anyone wants to reach out and talk more, but sort of open it up from there.
Catherine, I think maybe I will just add my experience going to the classroom with you on the last day. It was great. It was really great to see Phil in action. I think Jay had a really good time. Jay's kids had gone through that welding class, so it was just also great to for him to be back at the high school. Um, but after I got over how many energy drinks those young boys were drinking at 8 in the morning, they were so thoughtful in their questions, and their questions really ranged from okay, I had no idea this was an option. Where do I go to school to study this? And we're like, well, good news. You don't have to go far. So the exploring the educational pathways, I think, is something that we could really build out a little bit more. Joe, maybe you could come and talk more about what's happening at MSU. We can have Gallatin College represented. Um, but then they were just like, should I bother with this or is AI going to take this job even before I get started? So, like, even just more industry interaction to help them think through what you all see or what the industry sees coming down the pipeline so that they can know that there probably is a career and AI is not going to take all of their jobs. So it's definitely front of mind for them. But I was really impressed with the students and the whole setup when I was able to see it in person.
I'd like to add to that, if I may. Jenny, thanks for calling me out. I would love to do that. I think it would be great to come and just give these students a little bit of a preview of their options because they have multiple options. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Catherine. A fantastic presentation. I have a couple questions. One is kind of related to the student experience and particularly for the high school pilot. How did the challenge level for this module kind of stack up to the amount of hands-on, the kind of level of skills that they were building out through the rest of their coursework? Was this was this like on par, similarly challenging but different, or a level up, or how would you characterize that?
I think it's hard to draw like an apples to apples comparison. I think it's probably on par with what they're doing in that course. I mean, that course, to my knowledge, is pretty focused on careers. They're welding and learning things in a way that's meant to be directly translating into an employment environment if they wanted to, leave high school and go do that. I think for a lot of students, though, there was a bit of a reframing and perhaps just like a stretching in perspective that obviously it's different on a different scale. You're working with components that are much smaller. There's an element of precision, but there is a skills translation there too, and I think some of it's just sort of being exposed to like I could work in this way and in this environment, and it might be hard because you just haven't thought about yourself in that way or yourself as a learner, potentially professional in that environment. But I think difficulty wise, I wouldn't say it's much different than what they were doing. It's just they hadn't been exposed to that type of thinking before, or been put in the position where they were empowered to think of themselves as like extremely capable of those skills.
Great. And then my other question is more on the kind of provider side. Um, and I know you're still working on this. There's still a lot of work to be done in this space. But if you're kind of like projecting out um, a successful kind of implementation at different schools in different locations, what sort of resourcing, if a school is interested in doing this, what sort of resourcing do they need to be kind of thinking about in terms of time commitment and staff expertise and the cost of the kits and all of that? Like what all is going to be involved for this to become a real thing?
Yeah, so I think that and Jenny, feel free to jump in at any point too. You're going to think of things I'm going to forget, but in order to develop the resources that I would see that an instructor would need to deliver like the bulk of this training in the classroom and then have industry come in and support more sparsely than Phil was able to here. We're talking about like the development of modules and online content that can be put in a learning management system that we can then share with instructors. But there's also going to be a bit of an upskill situation too. So I could easily envision a case where, we bring some willing high school instructors together, and willing's going to be the hard part too. They have so much on their plates, to come together and do some upskilling, for a few days in person, with industry to learn about this, to build the confidence that they need to deliver this in the classroom. But of course, the Rover kits is going to be an ongoing expense. They cost about 120-ish a piece, I think, if I was off the top of my head here. And so there's certainly a cost there, but I think there's a lot of front end investment, and it perhaps gets cheaper per student over time. But we're kind of at that, if we're going to scale it in a way that doesn't rely so much on, a fill coming into the classroom every day, we're going to have to invest in those resources that could be put into an LMS or something similar for teachers to access. What am I missing, Jenny?
I think maybe the one thing I would add is it's not the most direct answer for you, Tim, but like every partner we work with comes to the table with different resources that they have available to them. So sometimes it might vary, but I think when Catherine and I talk about what like might be a great goal in the next couple of years, one is the train the trainer that she's talking about. Maybe we can find all of these teachers somewhere at one of their conferences and add this on. That could be an option. But like as a next step, could we get most of the high schools in Gallatin College to do it around the same time? And could we do field trips together to the test beds? So like we're thinking about steps that way. And that's an investment that either we have to figure out how industry and organizations figure out how to fund that, or the schools have some budget because it's part of their field trip budget or whatever that, or something like that. So it's usually a very different combination of resources every time we do this.
You call that braiding resources, Jenny?
I don't, but that's what they do call it.
Joe, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I wanted to ask if any of you know Tim Price at Flathead Valley Community College, because I'm partnering closely with him in the Smart Fires project, and he teaches a robotics class, and they're killing it. They're building this really cool off-road sort of high-tech version of the rovers that you're showing here. And his students built this system, and we're going to be using it to go in and profile the fire fuels at the Lubrecht Forest.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it's a real honest to goodness research project, and those community college students are just knocking it out of the park. And so he's doing something so similar to what you guys are, the approach you've taken, that's a relationship that we should foster.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to chat with him and learn more about what they're doing. That sounds great.
We can make sure to put y'all in touch after if you're not already in touch.
Sounds good. I made a little note too.
Okay.
Catherine, I'm really curious about that kind of long-term vision. As I'm listening and learning, I see those, the easier lift when you talk about a community like Bozeman or Gallatin Valley more broadly, and particularly around being able to get kids out of the classroom and into some of those industry partner spaces to kind of get a sense of what that looks and feels like. Is there, like, how is a program like this envisioned for communities like Sydney or Ekalaka, or I think the challenges are different there, but teach me more about what that audience looks like and what that aspiration looks like.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think when we're thinking about designing resources that could be sort of picked up or delivered or accessed by people across Montana, we're thinking about homes for those that wouldn't exclude schools in some of the more rural parts of our state that aren't as close to industry. But when I'm thinking about a training like this that's so specific to sort of like action that's happening in the Gallatin Valley, up near the Flathead, kind of around that corridor there, I would also be curious, and this is certainly open-ended and not shutting down any conversation, but ensuring that students also have access to like those local employment opportunities too, and just understanding like it's important to expose folks to the opportunities they have all across Montana, no doubt, and folks move around, but also just being really cognizant of educating people in a way that not having like heavy supply side, if that makes sense, as the industry continues to develop and grow, from my perspective.
Yeah, and maybe I'll add to that. I think Catherine and I've talked about this in the past. In some of those smaller communities where the employment might not be as big of an option, I could see in some of our more agricultural towns that just them understanding the applications of this technology to things that they might experience if they are going to continue to work on their family's ranch or in another way. So they're just better able to interact and understand the technology that it is affecting the work that they're doing in other ways. I think as long as we can feel like there's utility and opportunity on the other side of the training, we don't want to give people false hope and train them for something that's not an opportunity for them.
I think it's a great way to describe that too, Jenny. I'm thinking about I think there's just like there's a creative framing there, and we're not naive to the idea that like I can't design something for Bozeman and pick it up and take it somewhere else and pretend like it's gonna serve everyone the same way. And so I think there's just some thoughtfulness that would need to happen there.
Other questions from the audience?
Catherine, as you're moving between now and you said that early July phase 2 submission, what does support from this ecosystem look like? I've heard Joe share some opportunity for some introduction there, but what other asks do you have of the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think those introductions, those conversations, that's what a lot of this work looks like right now is we have the opportunity to sort of like design and propose something for that larger award. And so it's really important to me to make sure that it's informed by what you all see as a need for this work. And so if things about this presentation or what's been done so far, or the vision that Jenny and I have sort of laid out for you, don't land for you, or you have other ideas, we want to hear those, because when we can design a program that's going to prepare students for success and that employers are happy with, that's where everyone's going to win. And so if any of those things are striking you, I want to have those conversations while we have the opportunity to sort of design and propose it in that way.
Catherine, I'll add to that. I agree with what you just said. I think there's also, maybe it's a conversation about as the tech hub continues your own awareness of the industry and everything that's happening and the opportunities that we think about partnering on awareness around career opportunities and applications that are presented in a way that would make sense to somebody going through a training. I think that would be helpful, just to bring it to life for people. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like yesterday I was in a conversation and somebody said to me, "What is photonics?" And I said, "Well, here's Joe's number." You can call him. But I think there's just if we're all getting that question often, there's probably several different audiences and we have to communicate with them in different ways. And so maybe our role in this project that we're talking about is how to talk to young people about the career opportunities and the applications of this in a way that makes sense to them. And to their parents and their grandparents, because if I've learned anything, we need to also educate parents and grandparents.
Can I just jump in on that? Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Brockman. For those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to meet, I just had a I'm a liberal arts major from the University of Montana, and I know this much about photonics and quantum, as some of you know. I just had a conversation in Missoula yesterday with a banker about photonics and quantum. And the thing I always tell people when they ask me is it's the study and movement of light. And I tell them, listen, I don't like nobody's coming to me for a lesson in photonics and quantum, but here's why it's important, right? And especially when it comes to quantum, like why does that matter? And so yes, to the previous point, uh, teaching parents and grandparents why their kids need to be looking towards a career in photonics and quantum, because those are the parents, our conversations are going to last 5 minutes, but it's those conversations that occur after 5 p.m. and on the weekends where the parents and the grandparents are like, yeah, what are you doing with photonics and quantum? Right. And all they need to know is that it's going to matter significantly for the future. Um, so I think we all need to have that 30-second elevator pitch when it comes to that. And they, like I said to this banker yesterday, I said, listen, you don't you don't want me to tell you about photonics and quantum, but I know a guy, and I know a whole team in Bozeman that can explain it until your brains leak out of your ears, right? And I have their phone numbers. So just to reiterate that great last point.
I think Catherine was making this point earlier, but yeah, we're going to work on this application that's due in June, but that doesn't preclude us from trying this again in another community. So if anybody in any community that's represented by the Tech Hub is interested in trying to figure it out, maybe for the fall semester, we're more than happy to talk to you about whether or not we can figure out how to do that. So keep that in mind. It's always better for us to continue to run it and test it and learn from it in more communities because every place is a little bit different. And so the more that we can learn so that we can be more adaptable, that's what we like to learn that way.
That's great. And Veronica, that has me looking at you and thinking about Butte and opportunities to maybe connect the Accelerate team with educators at Butte High.
Yeah,
Let's
I
call
can
for
do
questions.
that
Oh,
with
sorry.
Butte High.
Any further questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks for everyone for attending today. It's an exciting program. It was an exciting conversation, and I really appreciate the attention that you're putting into this important work. For everyone's awareness, we do post recordings of these up on our YouTube channel. Courtney will drop that on link. You can see this webinar. You can see other webinars. You can share them out. You can link them. We would love the attention. And I do want to make sure that we start to get attention out towards our next month's topic. Next month, we will have Tammy Hickey presenting to us. She is the director for the State Workforce Innovation Board. She's going to talk to us about Montana's 406 Jobs Initiative, priorities, progress, and opportunities for the Headwaters Tech Hub ecosystem. That's going to be on June 25th, the same time. You'll be able to find registration links. We'll be getting those links out to you on various channels soon. And I think the registration link is right there in the chat too. If you don't want to put it off, you can just jump in there and register right now. Until then, I will see you all soon, and hopefully we will cross paths as we move our way around the state. I love these engagements. I love the dynamic here. So thanks, everyone.